This week, Collecturbation. You wanted it, you got it. Witchfinder General, death penalty.
Hobbies: preening in front of the mirror. Olympic level ass kissing. Also weirdly, cat fostering. Biggest turnoffs: people who bring up my radio show in the 90s. Forget about it.
What Hollywood star described Agnes Moorehead as classy as hell, but one of the all-time Hollywood dykes? A. Haley Mills, B. Paul Lynde, C. Orson Welles, or D. Frankie Avalon?
So what's the story behind the tagline, Spooner's no fun, and what kind of made you
Yeah,
racist?
this is the question that I've wanted to ask the most. Yeah.
There's a funny story about that.
The electric can opener has got to be like the Morgan Freeman of the kitchen appliances. I tell you, son, opening a can in 20 seconds used to be the peak of technology. That magnetic lift of the lid used to drive the housewives crazy.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
Finally happened.
What has finally happened?
I wasn't sick all winter, and small disclaimer, I'm a little sick.
Your voice is a little
Yeah.
croaky.
So
Yeah.
if I sound weird, that's why.
Okay.
Also,
This has been a public service announcement from Mark and Stace.
I went to the liquor store in leather pants, because who doesn't? Got accosted by a guy wearing all St. Patrick's Day garb who felt the need to say, "Have a good day, ma'am." And then I watched this guy just back into another car. Fun times. And this is the middle of a Saturday.
So many funny things happen to you, and you go, I feel like I'm left out. I just
Couldn't believe there were two people with entire, carts of alcohol. All I could think is, are you having a hell of a St. Patrick's Day party, or is that, all the alcohol for your wedding? They were having trouble pushing it into this truck.
dang Irish lushes. So, I cannot overestimate the impact of the air fryer on our household. I
Sure.
got it just as a gift for you last year because I know you like gadgets and you like to cook. But it has become, it's not just a conduit for crisp, delicious snacks in record time. It breathes life into dead food.
Yeah, we actually call it 8 minutes to bacon.
Yeah.
Stale pizza your roommate left in the fridge uncovered? Let's pray to the god of appliances. Can you resurrect this snack, oh air fryer? Voila! 2 minutes later, you've got a hot and delicious slice with a little extra crispiness and a bonus.
There seems to be no limit to its magic powers. I pulled out a burger and chips from a couple days ago, carry out. The burger was fine, but the tortilla chips, they were like rubber. And then it occurred to me, you sexy little kettle of magic. Little avocado oil, maybe $3.50 for 90 seconds. Your wish for crunchy tortillas has been granted. Bajing! Is there no end to this appliance's powers? I am at the point now, I think it could help me travel through time. Air fryer, I was really upset that I missed the football game last Sunday. Can you transport me back to around the 7th of October, about 1 p.m., maybe with a little basket of jalapeno poppers?
Sometimes I swear I can feel the other kitchen gadgets feeling jealous and underappreciated. The microwave. Don't forget, I can heat up a Hot Pocket just so it's burning your mouth on one side, but will still have chunks of ice on the other side.
And I can also drive you crazy for hours reminding you about the bowl of soup that you left in me. Beep, beep. Beep, beep. Garbage disposal. Hey, I have a great reminder system if you accidentally leave a fork in me. What? A little adrenaline scare is great for the ticker.
Toaster oven. If you leave me unattended, I can set your bagel on fire, potentially burning down your house. We set off so many smoke alarms together. I mean, great times.
Seriously, in college, the toaster oven was the only appliance that you needed a wingman to operate. It was so dangerous. If you were going to walk out of the kitchen, you had to be like, my mom's at the front door. Can you keep an eye on my grilled cheese in case the bread ignites? I think that's the reason why apartment insurance was invented, was because of the toaster oven. Now, what about this? The electric can opener has got to be like the Morgan Freeman of the kitchen appliances. I tell you, son, opening a can in 20 seconds used to be the peak of technology. That magnetic lift of the lid used to drive the housewives crazy. Thanksgiving dinner prep. It was me and electric knife. Bells of the ball. Those were the days. Now it's all Bluetooth enabled, automatic trash cans, AI enhanced ice makers, high tech, no soul.
The Keurig machine. I can help you reduce your caffeine intake. How? Easy. I took so long to warm up, by the time that I do, you aren't craving coffee anymore.
Because it's noon.
I also secretly like it when you beat me on the side, yelling about birthing coffee. A little S&M makes me hot. Honestly, the only kitchen gadget that can compete with the air fryer, the magic sponge. Oh, I'm not just any sponge. I'll remove the dirt, the grease, and the paint off the walls if you're not careful. In fact, I am so dedicated to cleaning those gravy stains, I'll destroy myself doing it. Only for you.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, all right. So we want to talk about our feature interview.
Our feature interview this week is with Mr. James Spooner. You might know him as the filmmaker behind Afropunk, the groundbreaking documentary that threw a much-needed spotlight on Black punk culture and inspired an entire movement. James is not only a filmmaker and an accomplished author, but also a do-it-yourself powerhouse, zine maker, and tattoo artist. And we get into all of the above, so stay tuned for that. Let's play a song. This is from the soundtrack to James's documentary, Black Punk Now. This is Rough Francis with Urgent Care.
Too weak to go back home. My heart beats like a metronome. I need a cure and I need it fast. I don't think that I will last. My mouth is numb and my throat is dry. In this clinic I will probably die. They don't know if I'm okay. They can't say that I'm okay.
Okay, let's talk about Patreon. The site is patreon.com/snaggletoothpodcasts. And for $6.66 a month, you get an enormous card that looks like a Matchbox toy, but it really isn't, full of Mark and Stace.
You get exclusive content, reviews of both music, interviews, cooking tips,
Recipes, yep.
just sometimes fun in our backyard. You never know what's going to
What
happen.
was the last recipe we did? Was it chili or something?
I think I did the guacamole.
Was it guacamole? Okay.
Or the crazy, the best chicken sandwiches, which, by the way, use
That's
the
right.
air
It was
fryer.
the chicken sandwiches. Again, dedicating our show, our life to the air fryer. So, yeah, we really need your patronage. So head on over to patreon.com/snaggletoothpodcast and get all kinds of exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else. While you're at it, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Also, check out our other show, the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. And then that way, you'll have a dose of Mark and Stace every week. You know you love us. Please help us. Okay.
For less than you spend at McDonald's, I guarantee you that.
Our niche, because I think it's time. Hit it.
And now it's time for Obnoxious Trivia!
All the questions are about Bewitched this week.
Oh my God.
I don't know why. I just couldn't stop. So let's see how you do. Obnoxious Trivia. Question number 1. What Hollywood star described Agnes Moorehead as classy as hell, but one of the all-time Hollywood dykes? A. Haley Mills. B. Paul Lynde. C. Orson Welles. Or D. Frankie Avalon. And she worked with all of them, by the way.
That's a little dicey, but by someone who definitely has some confidence, let's say Orson Welles.
Sorry, it was Paul Lynde. He was so great on like Hollywood Squares. Like I couldn't wait till they came to him. He always had something funny to say. Okay, one down. Number 2. Why did Dick York have to leave the show? A. He couldn't come to a contract agreement with ABC. B. His debilitating back injury sustained in 1959 became unmanageable. C. His scandalous affair with Rita Hayworth had him dropped from the show. Or D. He was cast in the Broadway play Yankee Doodle Dandy. All of those are feasible.
Yeah, they're all pretty feasible. I hope you're playing along at home and picking the wrong answer with me. I'm going to say he had a debilitating back injury and became unmanageable.
That's true. He did. He actually had it before the show started, and they had to make all kinds of accommodations for him for the 3 years he was on the show. But eventually, he just couldn't take it anymore.
Wow.
Dick York, who was the guy that replaced him? Do you know?
Okay.
That should have been a question. Okay. You got one down. You said 50% so far. Okay. During its first season in 1963, what show preceded its 9 p.m. Thursday time slot? A. Peyton Place. B. My Three Sons. C. I Love Lucy. Or D. Laugh-In.
It's weird in this era of streaming to think about the way we used to have to plot stuff out on a
If you missed a
thread.
show, you missed a
You
show.
missed a show. Um, let's see. I want to guess it was something funny, and I think I Love Lucy's too old. So how about My Three Sons?
Very good. So far, you are
2 for 3.
2 for 3. Okay. Okay. Close the net. Which of the following was not a character on the show? A. Dr. Bombay. B. Esmeralda. C. Uncle Abner. Or D. Gladys Kravitz.
I actually used to watch this show. I think it was Gladys Kravitz because I seem to remember that.
I'm sorry, it was Uncle
Oh.
Abner that's not.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yep.
I think
Gladys Kravitz was like the neighbor's name.
that's right.
Kravitz's,
He
yeah.
was always trying to just being shocked by the magic,
Always
and
being
having to get zapped.
Right. Okay,
Wow.
so this has been Obnoxious Trivia, special Bewitched edition. Okay, time for our Snaggletoon. And this week we thought we'd try to stump you guys with some celebrity dating profiles. Can you figure out who these celebrities are? Okay, let's go.
All right, who would you pick off of the dating website? How about this one? Jay Rogan, 56, Texas. Hobbies: MMA fighting, overpriced grills. Biggest turnoff: fact checkers, guys that can deadlift their own weight. Looking for someone who thinks my stand-up is funny.
Good luck with that last one.
How about Nicholas C., 60, Nevada? Hobbies include haunted mansions, starring in movies that I've forgotten about. Biggest turnoffs: IRS agents, getting tricked into a Vegas wedding. Looking for the original Declaration of Independence.
Fascinating. Tom B., 48, from Florida. Hobbies: polishing Super Bowl rings, making avocado ice cream, and trying different hair gels. Biggest turnoffs: coffee, Gatorade, white sugar, flour, gluten, dairy, soda, cereal, white rice, potatoes, bread, and people diving at my knees. Looking for someone who understands retirement is a subjective term. Amber H., 39, Madrid. Hobbies: crying, feigning abuse, helping my dog with bee stings. Biggest turnoffs: men who lock themselves in bathrooms, especially with mega pints of wine. Looking for someone who will believe my side of the story and who doesn't mind an occasional shit to bed incident.
All right, how about this one? Howard at 71, New York. Hobbies: preening in front of the mirror, Olympic level ass kissing. Also, weirdly, cat fostering. Biggest turnoffs: people who bring up my radio show in the 90s. Forget about it. Looking for my father's approval, a good analyst, a decent hair salon, and a psychotherapist I won't be tempted to date.
All right, how about this one? Mel G., 69, living in California. Hobbies include badger puppets, whiskey, and the crucifixion. Biggest turnoffs include TMZ, AA meetings, the people of Israel, and my ex-wives. Looking for a place to live after the wildfires. How about one M. Keenan, 59, from Ohio? Hobbies: making my fans wait 13 years for an album. Biggest turnoffs: people asking when the next Tool album's coming out. Looking for someone who actually cares about my winery. And finally,
S. Combs, 56, New York. Hobbies include changing my name, buying baby oil, and revenge porn. Biggest turnoffs: FBI agents. Looking for an open-minded judge.
okay, I can't take any more. Let's do a song from the Black Punk Now soundtrack. This is Soul Go with Jump or Get Jumped. Okay, let's talk about Hum Nutrition.
So Hum Nutrition is an online company out of California, and they make supplements that actually work.
Yay.
There's no hocus pocus because guess what? There's real doctors behind this. They use real ingredients, And it makes sense that, slathering stuff on the top layer of your skin is not going to help. This is beauty from the inside out. And they have a variety of products that we really love to use. I have a few of them here. This is apple cider gummies. Really helps jumpstart your metabolism. Much tastier way than downing cups of apple cider because, ew. You also get a good dose of vitamin C in there. Celery fiber gummies. These are great for your green cleanse with no need for a smoothie. Take one of these in the morning and it'll get rid of all your toxins. I also have red carpet. This helps with shiny skin and hair. Again, ingredients that actually work, not just empty promises.
I like the one called Klavortka. You take 2 pills and you can speak Klingon perfectly.
But they do make the best of berberine. This is also metabolism
No dime
booster.
store berberine in this house. No.
So it's also helps with your weight support, metabolism. So get over to Hum. There's a quiz if you're not sure which product are right for you. They'll ask you about your concerns, and then they will suggest products that are right for your needs. It's also
Hang
a
on.
points program, so the more you buy, the more you can get off your next order. Use our link. It will save you off your first order.
Okay, very good. Ah, there it is. Okay, this week, Collecturbation. You wanted it, you got it. Witchfinder General, Death Penalty. We know you like the album cover. I can't imagine why. Okay. The dawn of the internet changed the world as we know it, of course. Within a few years, every ex-girlfriend or bad employee you fired could find you on Facebook easily. Google Maps ensured that we'd never have to ask strangers for directions again. And music and videos long forgotten resurfaced, finding an entirely new audience. This was indeed the case for the short-lived new wave of British heavy metal band, Witchfinder General.
Active for only a handful of years in the early 80s, the band churned out 2 incredibly obscure albums before dissolving in a haze of lineup changes and bad luck. Signed by the tiny Heavy Metal Records label in 1982, a label with questionable taste and even more questionable funding, responsible for gems from Handsome Beasts, Satanic Rites, and Soldier. The band only played a handful of shows and never got out of the UK.
I want to say Handsome Beast had a naked girl on the album cover too, or something.
I think it was.
It was racy, I think. Anyway, or
it was a
single, something. Anyway.
But their unique, clangy, garage doom sound that likely alienated the music press and promoters back in the day became incredibly popular in the early 2000s, leading to multiple reissues of their back catalog. Currently, the band has over 27,000 followers on Spotify.
Don't ever underestimate a good set of knockers. This is a little bit of free country.
Look out for me, come have some mushroom tea. Look out for me, yes, look out for me.
It remains unclear if the band originally envisioned their music to be proto-doom. Vocalist Zeeb Parks admitted in a Kerrang! Interview that the studio botched the bass tone so badly that they actually offered the band extra hours as an apology. Even so, there's a lot to like on the debut album. Zeeb developed a campy sort of croon, kind of whiny at the edges, like a cross between Joe Elliott and Vince Neil. Despite the band's struggle with drummers and lack of touring acumen, it's hard to fault something like the song you just heard, the substance-obsessed Free Country, built on a chuggy riff reminiscent of Dio-era Sabbath, and the flash-rocking solo dished out by guitarist and bassist Phil Copes. It's aggressive and exciting.
The bass-heavy intro and jaunty riffing on No Stare wouldn't be out of place on an early Budgie album. The vocals take a full 2 minutes to show up, and when they do, well, let's just say the instrumental sections were nice while they lasted. I'm going to lay her. Do you know what I mean? I really want to make her scream. What could he mean?
Can't
I don't
imagine.
understand.
Subtle as a brick through the window. It's a short record, most of the tracks falling in the 3 to 4 minute range, but every song contains at least one spectacular riff or fist in the air chorus. The title track is infinitely entertaining, cycling haphazardly through Sab's adjacent riff tomfoolery and lyrics like insult their bodies till they're dead. And he says he hates our slang. Hey, it's not exactly Astral Weeks, but who cares? Of course, the closer is a grave robbing, church crashing, cowbell abusing, riff slinging anthem. Zeeb sounds downright regal, and the guitars are as restless as a coked up televangelist. It's got the same scrappy lo fi charm as early Pentagram, the kind of underdog band you can't help but root for, and then blast at full volume until your neighbors call the cops. I seem to recall the next album had a little bit more in terms of production acumen, but that is for another show, ladies and gentlemen. This is Witchfinder General.
Which one I because I'm the Witchfinder General. Trust be gone and people come from many towns around. Find them guilty just to please me, beat them to a halt. Bite their brains and cut their veins and strike them to the ground. Some their bodies till they're dead. Let the sun.
Okay, what you see me?
This is our interview with Mr. James Spooner, quite the Renaissance man. He has written a number of books, including the last one was kind of like a graphic novel. He also has done some artwork for our show
Yes, he
since
has.
season 1. He is our current artist for the Decay podcast this year. He knocked it out of the park, and I think he does that with just about everything he does.
Yes, he does. So take it away.
I guess starting from the beginning, your early punk influences you list as Sex Pistols, Black Flag, and the Misfits. What do you think it was about their sound or message that really resonated with you as a young person?
I mean, I think that those are like legendary kind of punk 101 bands for a reason, they're the angst that they were able to capture and kind of put in a bottle like very early on has resonated with generation after generation, right? So I'm not unique, or this isn't like a hot take for me to say that like those bands. But I mean, I think, okay, when I think about them individually, like I was probably first attracted to Misfits because of their like aesthetic, like the skulls and the I don't even know if I really knew what they looked like. Maybe I did from like posters or something, but they look like they would freak out your parents, and isn't that like what we were trying to do at that age?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what they were singing about because I don't think those cassettes had any lyric sheets. It was really hard to understand, but they said like "son of a bitch," or whatever.
Right.
That wasn't happening in pop music, and like hearing the Sex Pistols talk about like being an antichrist or whatever, like that was even scary for me in 8th grade, having gone to church my whole life or whatever, like,
Yeah.
but it also spoke to me in this way that was like, oh, like you can say that. Like I was never like a devil worshiper, but I didn't really believe what was going on in church. I just was afraid to say it. So to have somebody say it kind of opened that door. And I think really when it comes down to all of those early bands going through to, Dead Kennedys or Descendants or Minor Threat, like in different ways, they were saying things that as a 13-year-old, I just didn't know you could say, and was like empowered by what they did say.
Yeah.
And that, I guess that ultimately is like why I like all the music I like is, they're saying words that I'm like afraid to say, or
Yeah.
or like they are presenting a energy that speaks to me in a way that I might have trouble articulating otherwise,
Yeah, I remember when I was 14, I bought Plastic Surgery Disasters on vinyl. And when I brought it home, I read every note, every insert. And they had an insert in there about how to avoid the cops when you're doing graffiti. And I just remember thinking, God, I hope my parents don't find this. It was like porn. Like I felt like I
Yeah.
brought porn home, It was
Yeah.
so bad, but so good,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. How to be a miscreant or just act like one.
And the one thing I remember is that the bottom it said, it wouldn't be illegal if it wasn't effective or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's the kind of stuff. Those are the kind of messages that kids need,
Yeah.
grow up to be good adults.
Yep.
So, what do you think your most memorable shows that you went to were that you can think of?
Oh God, there's so many. Probably so like my first show in New York City in 91 when I moved there was Guar with Leeway and Chuck Treese from McRad. And that was, that was exciting because that was like my first big show with like a band who's like I knew all the lyrics, and it wasn't like local.
Was that Leeway where they toured on the first album?
It might have been the second record, like after
Okay.
they had like that Kingpin song on
Yeah. I think
MTV.
that was the later one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they were playing some of that Born to Expire stuff, but I mean they were pretty new to me at the time, but it was a killer lineup, and like Guar of course puts on like a great show. But like the shows that really, really like made a huge impact on me turned out to be more like local shows or smaller bands that that you could actually like be friends with,
Right.
So I have like really vivid fond memories of there is a band called Frail that they're actually like touring right now, but 30 years ago they were on tour with this other straight edge band called Chokehold. They're playing a barn in like Amish country in Pennsylvania, and it was just like it was that thing where like the crowd is so tight that it's kind of like moving in one organism.
Yeah.
Like this the music is like you feel like a locomotive, and the whole place is moving and sweating, and like we're just one thing. Like I wish I had a video from like a sky cam, to just see that. But even inside of it, you could feel what it must look like. Like we're just like an ocean, So, I mean, there's so many different shows for so many different reasons that are value. I mean, there are shows that were just the opposite of that, where it's like literally like 5 people in the audience and the band. I mean, I saw Elliott Smith play in my living room, and there was 20 people there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like that's the magic of the underground, right?
Yeah, we like this place by us called the Metro, because most of the time when they get off stage, they're back behind their merch table.
Yeah.
So you can go buy a shirt, talk to them,
get a picture.
If you get a picture, if you really like them, you can, we might invite them on the show. It's just a whole different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. What part of the country are you in?
Baltimore.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really the heart of the underground. Once it gets too big, it's something else,
Do you think there's any book, album, or film that kind of really influenced your creative path?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, obviously I made the Afropunk documentary, and I did that when I was like 25 in 2001. I started it. And the movie, the films that really influenced that film, in terms of like structure, pacing, editing, were 3. It was a lot of editing I learned from watching Dogtown Z-Boys, which is very fast cut and very like kind of it was of the time. It definitely, and I watched that movie, like literally would watch it in slow motion to kind of like see how they did it, and how they move things around or whatever. There's in the Afropunk film, there's a like it's kind of structured where you have like this chorus of people talking about let's say interracial dating, and then after that it goes to one of the four protagonists, and like get to see like a slice of their life. And that chorus idea I got from a documentary called Wattstacks, which everyone should see a movie. It is about like what they called Black Woodstock. It was like a big concert in Watts, California, in the probably early 70s, and it was like $1 in an arena, and it was all Stax recording artists. But they interviewed people who lived in Watts, and they, talking about different things like, it'd be like an interview with a bunch of people at a barbershop, and they're talking about like, I don't know, like high fives or something. And it'd just be like a bunch of different people talking about that. And I definitely saw that. I saw that and definitely thought like I could lift that and put it, it would work well for what I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
And thirdly, there was a documentary called Streetwise that it's about homeless kids in Seattle in the early 80s, and just the way that they shot that movie. I mean, it's totally a masterpiece. It's and I would just watch it and try to figure out like how they're doing what they're doing. It was just like kind of pre-internet stuff, so you really just had to study. So I would just watch it and be like, are they using a boom mic for that, or a lot? Like
you watch
like,
it differently. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely just trying to understand how to like make movies.
Yeah.
So
no, I get that.
Yeah, I had a really fortunate experience while I was making that film, in that there was a DIY video store on my block, and it was run by these punks who used to have a punk record store called Reconstruction when I was a kid. So shout out to Real Life. When I went in there, they recognized me from like my teen years, and they they basically put on their computer, like on my account, like, don't charge this kid. So I would just go in and every day just rent a documentary and watch it about anything, whatever they had, and just try to like understand what I liked and didn't like, and how I could utilize that or not for my film.
We've been for the show, we do some green screening. We know enough about green screening to be dangerous at this point, right? And last month I rewatched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and from a green screen perspective, the part where they first are discovering the Well of Souls, and it's kind of like the Wrath of God cloud scene behind them. I pulled her in. I said, how the hell did they green screen that? Because they did. And it was 1979. So yeah, you watch things differently after you've become a content creator, sort of,
Or all those snakes. You couldn't CGI them in.
Yeah, no CGI.
Snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it probably looked better. But yeah, I mean, at the time, part of being a creator is also, I don't know, you kind of take the magic out of it sometimes, because you're just like looking at it from an artist perspective. But it's like once you open that can of worms, you can't really put it,
Right. You're constantly, like you said, you're constantly going, how did they do? All right. It had to be this kind of microphone and this kind of camera. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And your friends are like, shut up.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it.
Trying to watch the movie.
God, but to have the wherewithal at 25 to figure all this out, and then how in the world did you like finance the thing?
I just used my credit card, and everything was very done on the cheap. So so basically it's like I bought a computer because like I didn't even have an email address when I was like, I'm going to make a movie. So I asked somebody who I knew who had a computer, what computer should I get? Like, this is what I want to do. And he like sent me to the Mac store. I bought this computer on my credit card. It cost like $2,000 or something. And then at the time I was a DJ and a like party promoter. So I just kind of put $100 away every month or whatever it was, and paid off the computer in like 6 or 7 months. And while I was doing that, I was like, I got a bootleg of Final Cut 1, and I was kind of learning how to like edit little things, taking clips from the internet or whatever, and just trying to learn how to edit. And then once I paid off the computer, then I maxed out my card again, and I bought a video camera. And again, it's another $2,000, and it was the same. It was like the first day I'm like, all right, I got my camera, and I went out and filmed stuff, and like it sounded horrible because I was just using the onboard mic, and I'm like, fuck, and I gotta buy like a $600 mic, and and then I had to buy like I needed a windscreen, and I was like, I'm not spending $80 on like a piece of foam, So like my friend like knitted me a sock that I could like put over.
That's very punk rock.
It's just like we're just trying to make things work, right? I literally bought like a plastic like squirt gun, and I put some foam on it, and then I taped it to the mic, so I had like a handheld. So yeah, I mean, like there was money spent throughout, but it was definitely just like done as cheaply as possible,
Yeah.
So the idea of taking this film and putting it on tour was just a genius way to increase visibility. What kind of inspired that, and what was the experience like?
I mean, it was kind of, there wasn't like a master plan, like I made the movie with the expectation that I would probably screen it a couple times in New York. Maybe I'd get a screening in LA, and that was it. So really early on, I didn't have very high expectations. I just knew that I wanted everyone who was in the film, which was almost like 90 people. I wanted all of them to see it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I was making this for us. And, somewhere after I got it cut together, I kind of took a shot in the dark, and I sent it out to a few film festivals, and it started getting in. And I was just like, whoa, like people want to see this. Holy shit. Like, and the second festival that I was at was the American Black Film Festival, which at the time was it was very mainstream, it was like, I don't know if HBO was behind it. It was definitely like, it's just very mainstream. And a lot of the other film, like they flew me out, which was crazy. I stayed in a hotel, which was crazy. Like all of these things felt like, oh wow, like they're really treating me like I'm somebody. And then I'm hanging out with all these other directors, and this was a very kind of like Tyler Perry kind of, like, well, that's what I mean when I say mainstream. Like it was just
right.
It wasn't underground in the punk rock sense of the word,
I picture there's a booth with Monster Energy drink or something, like,
I mean,
when you say that.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely very heavily sponsored. I mean, Monster might have been too, it was more like Alizé or something,
okay.
It was very just kind of like fancy black bougie. And so I had a screening, maybe I had two screenings, but they both sold out. And like so I'm like in a movie theater. It's and I'm just like, well, these are like normal Black people, like,
wow,
So that's when I was like, after the screening, like this guy came up to me and he's like, I don't know anything about punk, but I'm the only Black guy at my bank, and I totally relate to this, And I'm like, oh, this is a metaphor. Like, this isn't just like, I was just making a movie about being a Black punk, but this is actually a metaphor for being a person of color in this country, So you could really extrapolate this. And that's, that was the beginning of me thinking like, oh, I have something bigger on my hands than I thought I did, And then I started doing screenings in New York. And like I said, I was part of the like nightlife and the party promoting scene. So I already had like connections at bars and stuff. So I just like asked my friend, could I use your bar? I'll come in like during happy hour, do a screening. And like 100 people came and they all paid like $7. And I walked out of there with like my rent paid. And I was like, well, shit, there was like 100 people here. Like, what if I start, like I did that a few times and I'm like, well, what if I'm already at a bar. Why don't I put some bands on, Yeah. And like that, those kind of just like, oh, wait, like the next logical step is this, yeah. And then before I knew it, I think I'd screened it like 112 times in the first year. And then that kept happening to the point where it was well over 300 times in the first 3 years. And, looking back, it was just like, I was just sending out, faxing and sending out, VHS tapes and whatever. And, but I look back and I'm like, oh shit, it was screening like twice a week, somewhere in the world. That's crazy,
Well, it's been so many years and you've seen it so many times. Are there parts that you watch now that you would change because you're smarter and older?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get it remastered. Like there's definitely like sound issues.
Technical, right.
Yeah, this is like tech stuff that like, you could technically make a better film on your phone, like it's just I have more gigs on my phone than I did on my hard drive when I made the film. So,
yeah.
But I always say like the only thing that I would really change or that I thought would be interesting is instead of having 4 protagonists with 3 parts each, like I might have done it where I had 12 like 1 segment pieces just to give a little bit more slice of life. I don't know if that would have, I feel like each protagonist has a really strong piece and like that could have stood alone to kind of be their whole piece. And maybe I could have done some extras, but I don't know. It's fine. It's like with art, it's like you do it, you put it out in the world and you got to just like, let it be what it is.
A lot of the people that I know that are really into film and, really know cameras and stuff, they hate the vertical phone. How do you feel about it and about filming vertically with the phone?
I mean, that was obviously not an issue then. I think we've gotten used to it. Like, as far as, like if I'm watching a documentary and there's vertical, like we're used to seeing like the black bars on the side
So you're not like artistically offended by that?
I think it's not ideal, but it seems like it's what it is and what it's kind of like it's of an era. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like there's things that somebody was watching my film the other day and they were like, oh man, your movie looks so early 2000s. And like they were like, I forgot about like I forgot what they call it, where the lines, where the picture is made up of lines,
Right.
And I guess that's not how it happens anymore, and it's like if you see footage from the 90s and before, it's like always square because it was, that was how the dimensions we had then. So it seems like it's of a time, and even though it's annoying now, like in 20 years we'll look at it and be like, oh man, remember vertical screens? Like
yeah.
And certain formats like Instagram, it has to be that way, or TikTok, it has to be that way.
Yeah. I'm not that thrilled with it, frankly, because I got some pretty decent equipment, and sometimes I feel like, I made this great video. Look, now I got to make it look like shit so I can upload it on TikTok. Kind of.
So you kind of made the decision to kind of sever ties with the Afropunk Festival due to creative differences. Given your deep connection to the culture and vision behind the festival, did you ever consider like just starting up another one and calling it something else?
I didn't, because by the time that I had left Afropunk, well, like at that point I was 30, 31. So I already felt like punk rock is a young man's game, you know, young person's, like, I feel like, um, I mean, I guess at 30, I was still like in touch with what was happening on the ground, but like it definitely, I think I was just like heartbroken and ready to kind of like leave it behind me, try, you know, start something new. And it took me a good 10 years to come back. And it was really through the inspiration of what other kids were doing, you know, and I don't know that I knew for sure that it would happen, but like there are interviews with me from that time where I'm saying like, there's going to be some kids who go to Afropunk and find it irrelevant and make their own thing. And I only could like predict that because that's just what has always happened, you know, and that is what happened. So once I started seeing all these other underground festivals happening, whether it be like Break Free Fest or Black and Brown or like I'm drawing a blank right now, but Decolonize or Decolonize, like there's all of these different festivals from around the country, Chigonas in the Pit, like etc. That really, I was just like, oh yeah, of course, the next generation is going to do their thing, and it's going to speak. It speaks to me in this way, the same way that Afropunk did when I started it, because it's underground, you know. So I think that if I started a fest, it would be like, I don't know. I don't know if it would be as cool as what the kids are doing, you know?
Yeah, young people amaze me with the stuff that they come up with these days.
Yeah. I mean, they're willing to get, they're more willing to be grimy. They're more willing to be poor. They're more willing to play, to ask bands to play for like, you know, gas money or whatever it is. Like at my age, when I put together events, it's like, you know, I know what it's like to be, you know, to be an adult with like adult responsibilities, and I want to pay people for, you know, accordingly. And so I usually, you know, I just did an event at USC, and it's like, well, I got this huge budget from them so that I could then pay people properly, and that was a great festival. But it wasn't like a traditional festival. We didn't, only 3 bands played. We had like workshops and, you know, discussions, and, you know, so it was a lot of fun. It was really cool, but it was also, you know, kind of square and academic in that way.
Face it, you've got health insurance now. I mean, come on, you know, it's
Yeah, I gotta, you know, I mean, I'm still on the public plan, so.
oh, okay, there you go. All right.
We talked to this one band a while ago, the Hip Priests of the UK, and I pointed this out to them. All their early records were like "Cream My Jeans," and now they're like in their 50s, and it's a little more political. You know, it's not all that. I said, I guess you couldn't sing songs about that for.
They kind of admitted
I mean,
that with age, yeah, you have to change your content a little.
yeah, I mean, people do, but I think that there's we should be allowed to grow, you know, and I think that the thing that I want to do, or that I try to do as far as punk is concerned, is really try to just inspire the next generation, because like I'm just not gonna be a squatter right now, you know, like that's not in the cards for me anymore.
Yeah.
When you were compiling Black Punk now, when you were getting all that stuff together, did it strike you in any way the way things have changed, or the way things have stayed the same since you did Afro?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's both, you know. It's unfortunate that a lot of that Afropunk, the film, does remain to be relevant and kids can relate to it, but you know, there is I see how it's different there. You know, when I made Afropunk, there wasn't a Black punk community, or there wasn't even an avenue to talk about race in the scene, in a in like a in a real kind of tangible way. And you know, the mainstream and the underground looked like very different, you know, for better or worse. And now it's like, I think there's just more room for Black people to be weird. And that's like what we need, is like, for like, everyone should have the right to express themselves the way that they want, right? And so even if I don't particularly like a certain genre of music or whatever, I can definitely see like, oh, well, these kids are, you know, like, their parents are not stoked with the way these choices, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing their thing, like, they're, you know, and
It's rebellion.
yeah, so it's like, I just feel like there's just more space for Black people to do what they want to do, express themselves the way they want to express themselves. And my hope is that that self-expression when you're a teenager translates into like good politics as an adult, you know, translates into, you know, even if it's just identity politics, you know, it's just like, even if you're just like a Black kid who likes hip hop, but we've seen enough queer hip hop artists or whatever that it's like just not a big deal to them, that it makes it so that when they're grown-ups, they're not homophobic. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like little things that are just like, oh, like, can we just all be people, you know?
Yeah, I'm so impressed with the Gen Zs and beyond. I mean, we interview a lot of young bands for the show, and they're just so inclusive. I mean, I think back to when I was growing up. I mean, we were bullied about what kind of soft drink we chose. I mean, we've come a long way. They'd be like, Marchman, you're really drinking that? You know, like, I'm
Yeah.
going to get beat up over a soda, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember,
Yeah.
I remember the quote unquote fag toilet in,
Yeah, exactly right.
like, you cannot pee in that toilet or you're definitely gay, you know,
Yeah.
like, and it's just like, really, like I gotta pee really bad and I can't use that toilet because I don't want everyone to think I'm gay. It's like so ridiculous. I don't think that kind of stuff happens anymore.
The drinking fountain. You go to the drinking fountain and they'd like to shove your face into it. That was a thing when I was growing up, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think about things like that, we've come a long way, you know? So,
Yeah.
You know, even we go every year to Maryland Death Fest, and honestly, the people into that kind of music are like the nicest people. You wouldn't expect it because it's all, "Rah!" You know, somebody falls down in the pit, somebody's pulling them up, you know, and it's nice to see that. But I usually don't see as much as the Black community there as I guess maybe it's the music, but it's beginning to be more and more, I believe.
more and more. I see more and more. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I mean, the thing about people of color, but Black folks specifically, is I think that Black folks want to be invited, you know? And I think that white promoters aren't necessarily thinking about Black people. They're kind of, in the best case scenario, they're probably like, anybody can come. It's open to everyone, you know? But like, that's not enough to get Black people to come. You have to say like, hey, this is for you. Would you like to be here? You know? And that's the lesson I learned with starting the Afropunk community. It says it right on the flyer. It says Afro. It's in the name, you know? So when I like literally go up to, when I would literally go up to a Black girl with like, you know, who probably just by aesthetically, I'm looking at her and like, she probably listens to Erykah Badu, she probably listens to Jill Scott or whatever, you know, and I say, hey, come to this punk festival or this punk night. Like, if it was, or like, she's looking at it and she's seeing like, there's a Black person on the card, it says Afropunk, and then a Black person is inviting me, I'm welcome here, you know? I don't think it has to be that extreme, but it's definitely like around, you know, if in the same respect, like some tight pants, long haired white dude came up to that girl and said, "Hey, do you want to come to this metal festival?" She might go because she's being invited, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm safe here. And Black people do have to worry about their safety, you know? So
Absolutely.
if you see a bunch of white people, you know, on stage and in the crowd and what, you know, it doesn't matter what the music is. It's like, am I going to get jumped for being here? You know?
I don't know if you saw it. It was an article last year where I think it was Vernon Reed wrote an article about how he was never ever interviewed by Ebony or any of the black magazines. They didn't want anything to do with him because he was
Mm,
rock and roll. And then Lenny Kravitz chimed in and said absolutely same thing. They
mm.
were just like acted like we didn't matter because we weren't playing the right style of music. I thought that
Yeah,
was
I mean,
fascinating. Yeah.
it is fascinating. You know, I've had this conversation a couple times this week. I don't know why it's so random, but
I just thought of it.
um,
Yeah, it was like last year. Yeah.
yeah, no, I was thinking about Jada Pinkett's band, Wicked Wisdom. They're awful. Like you don't need to listen to them. But um, but I do uh try to I give her props because she could be an R&B artist and be on the charts and everyone would love her for her music. But she's choosing to make this new metal music, you know, which
Mm,
tells me that she actually really loves this kind of music, you know?
right.
So it's like, um, it doesn't matter, like, you know, just on that level, I know that it's authentic, you know? Like I said, it's terrible, but that's just my opinion. It could be any band that's in that genre. I don't like it.
It's terrible with integrity.
Yeah, it's, you know, and I'll take that, you know, like,
Yeah.
um, I'll give props for that. So, but yeah, she's probably hasn't been covered by mainstream black press on her metal band as much as she's, you know, black royalty, you
Right.
know?
Are you still actively looking for new music to like, or have you reached the age where that's kind of slowed down?
No, I'm still looking. Actually, just yesterday, I got turned on to this band called I think they're called Lamborghini Girls, and you know, just like some British queer screaming stuff. It's great.
Yeah, there's a UK band called the Sewer Cats, and it's just this girl who drums and sings,
Mhm.
and this guy who plays guitar. That's it, and they create some of the craziest noise I've ever heard. Um, so I was reading that Matt Davis of 10 Grand said, "We all die, but we don't end." When you think about your own legacy, what do you want to be remembered for most?
Mm. I mean, I guess I just would love to be respected for the work that I made. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I do think about death a lot, or I guess I do to the degree that I have all of these like projects in my head that I'm just trying to like get out, you know. So I always feel like I'm racing the clock. Um, but then I also feel like, does any of this matter? I don't know, like you know.
Yeah.
So I think that like it would be really cool to know that after I died, my kids or my grandkids were like reading my books or like watching my movies or
Yeah.
something like that, you know, like just on a very personal level.
Usually they're the last ones to do that.
Yeah.
They're usually, oh, it's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Can't be cool. It can't be cool, right? Yeah.
So for the High Desert, it seems like that's a really personal kind of confessional memoir of your, high school early days. What stories do you think will resonate the most with people?
um, yeah, I think that's hard to say. I mean, I've gotten a lot of great feedback and it really is different, you know, when I get like I've gotten no shortage of like white small town punks who are like, I totally relate to this. Like, I'm not Black, so clearly I don't relate to that, but I do relate to being like, weird in the small town and that kind of thing. And then conversely, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from people of color who relate to just being Black in America, and so it touches a lot of different things, and again, like kind of like with Afropunk, like people are able to do the equation and put themselves in my shoes at that, from that time period. So not everyone has the experience of dealing with Nazis, befriending Nazis, having Nazis want to kick your ass, like all of that stuff. But people do have the experience of like, being stabbed in the back by people that they thought cared about them, and sometimes when you present issues in more extreme modalities, it just shows you, like you still see yourself in it,
So how did you kind of make the jump, taking your art and becoming a tattoo artist?
Well, I mean, after Afropunk, I came to LA and I wanted to like do film. And at the time, it was like reality television was what everyone was looking for. And I tried to play the game a little bit, and I don't know, it just didn't really resonate with me, like taking meetings, pitching, like all of this stuff. It just didn't feel right. So I was kind of over filmmaking. And I was just looking for some way to express myself artistically. And I met I was getting tattooed, and just being in that space, I was like, oh, wow, like I could see like you just draw every day. You've got one customer. You've only got to worry about that person. It feels kind of low stress in that way. Yeah. So tattooing was kind of on my mind. I have an art background, like I went to a high school for art. So I'd taken visual art seriously in the past. And then I met a tattooer, this guy named Pedro Belugo, and he's a Black dude. He knew of Afropunk and stuff, and he was just willing to teach me based on the strength of like, I dedicated myself to making a movie. Maybe I would not let him down and like dedicate myself to the craft of tattooing, So so he basically got me started, and once I got like the green light to go, I just like went hard and was tattooing full time for at least 10 years, probably more than that. I really only slowed down during COVID, and I now I just tattoo like once a week. I enjoy it, but it's not. I want to make other stuff, so it's kind of just like a financial supplement.
Right.
What do you think's the most?
I enjoy doing it. Like I still love tattooing, and I still like love my clients and meeting new clients and stuff. So if anybody wants tattoos, feel free to hit me up.
Yeah.
I just am more limited in the amount of time that I give to it.
Have you ever had one that was really challenging, like they wanted their whole back done, or what do you think's the crazy?
Yeah, I mean, size isn't really a factor in terms of challenging. Like, it's much harder if somebody just wanted like a straight line from like their shoulder to their wrist, that'd be more challenging than to do like a whole back piece of roses. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, tattooing is like, it's full of challenges. And my friend Dan Bones gave me some advice really early on. And he said, like, only take on a tattoo that you know how to do with like 98% accuracy, or 95% or something. And that 5% that you don't know how to do, like that's your learning curve, you know? But like if it's more than that, you risk giving the person a really shitty tattoo, you know? But if you can 95% do a really good tattoo, and then in that 5% you're like learning something, then you're progressing, you know?
Yeah, we always say where our tattoo artists are our therapists, because while you're there, you end up telling them your whole life. And
Oh yeah, that's some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard so many crazy stories.
Yeah. And with us, we have a couple that we go to, and they're kind of like hairdressers in that there's rivalries
Okay.
where they know each other, and they'll be
Uh-huh.
like, I could have done so much better on that than Bobby did. I don't know. Is it that way where you live too, or?
Well, I feel like tattooers are really petty, and they also like want the business. So,
Yeah.
you know, if there's a way to insult another tattooer's work, you know, a tattooer will figure out how to do it, you know. Oh, those lines are really thick. Oh, they blew that out. Oh, like they put it on backwards, like whatever, you know.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I was told by the rival guy the other one was heavy-handed as fuck. I was like, okay then.
Yeah, but you
yeah.
were booked for 6 months. So what about that? You know, that's the thing. No. I wanted to ask you, I know, because you said you made that statement, punk is a young man's game. What do you think about like, you know, Misfits doing shows where they take your phones, or I think, isn't it that aren't the Dead Kennedys touring without cello singing?
Yeah,
Is
there's
that
a lot of
right?
those buzzcocks without
Yeah.
yeah. There I mean,
I
look,
know it's case
people,
by case, but
yeah, people have to make a living, you know, like I'm really on the fence. Like I definitely understand, like it sucks if your singer dies, you know, like are they supposed to pack up, you know, like
right.
you know, at the same time, like I really don't want to see this like Sex Pistols without Johnny, you know, like
Oh, I think that, have you seen the new guy? I think he actually is really good.
yeah, I'm sure, but I just don't need to hear those songs from this, you know, because at this point it really kind of just does feel like karaoke, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
His most endearing trait is that he's not John Lydon.
sure, and I think that they would be. Sometimes I'm like, why not write new songs and go out as a new band featuring 3 members of the Sex Pistols? Like,
Right.
everyone's gonna come see that, and then do some Sex Pistol songs, you know, like.
Yeah.
But if you're just like pulling out the old catalog, I mean, sometimes I love it. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not interested, you know. I try, and it's also like, I don't hold goth bands to the same, like, you know,
Standard.
Yeah, like, I mean,
because that last Cure album was fantastic.
Yeah, no, and I've seen every goth band like there is, you know, Bauhaus, like Susie, all of them. I've seen them. I've Christian Death. Not Christian Death. Like, yeah, no, they did a that was weird because it wasn't. Anyways, like, you know, I'll go see all these bands, but I also think that like, I don't think you can go and expect it to be anything other than what it is, right? So like I went to see the Misfits play at the Forum, you know, and so I don't know how many thousands of people can fit there, but I've also seen Phil Collins play there. So it's like, you know, so I didn't go there expecting a punk show, you know. I went to go hear those songs, you know. So it's fine, whatever. People need to live.
I always find it hard to believe that the Static Age material didn't come out for so long, because when they first made it, there was absolutely no label interest at all. I mean, and look how huge it became, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild. I think about that same with like the Bad Brains Black Dots
right
demo. It's like, how did that not get released when it came out, you know?
Yeah.
And what would have punk been if it did, you know?
Well, anyway, we play a game with our bands on the show, so we thought we'd play with you.
Okay.
So I have 100 questions in front of me. I want you to pick 5 numbers that will respond to 5 random questions.
Okay, just pick out 5 numbers.
Yep.
Okay, let's do 1 1569 82 97 and did I already do?
Yeah, we got
That's
5.
5. Yep.
Okay.
All right, number 1. What is the most vivid dream you ever had?
Ooh. I do have really vivid dreams, but I can't remember anything else top. I can tell you my first memory ever is actually of a dream. And I was 3 years old. And at the time I lived in St. Lucia in the Caribbean. And I had this dream that I was like on a bench and there was like the devil was underneath the bench and the devil would like come up on the bench and then I would go under and we were kind of doing this like dance.
Wow.
But I just find it interesting that like my first memory is a dream, you know?
Yeah,
That's
that's really
wild.
interesting. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
it. Number 15. Did you ever binge a Netflix show? And if so, which one was it?
Geez, I do it every night. What was the last thing I binged? Well, I'm watching the Pit on HBO right now. That's enjoyable. Our family is rewatching Stranger Things, so
I love
Oh,
that.
cool. Yeah.
we're getting ready for the next season. So
Yeah.
We
yeah.
always seem to have to do that because
The review.
it
Yeah.
was so long with the strike and everything. We were rewatching The Handmaid's Tale because that's about to come back out. I'm like, I'm not going to remember any of this.
Yeah,
The darkest
exactly.
show I've ever seen is Handmaid's Tale. It
I
kicks
can't
my
even.
ass.
It feels like I've watched probably into the second or third season, and it's just like so masochistic. And I feel
It's
like
crazy.
I
And
always
the art,
worry
the
that there
art.
are men that are watching it that are
Yeah.
like cheering. You know, like it's like it's one of
Yeah.
those things that I feel like you should have to pass some kind of like feminism test before you're allowed
Yeah.
to watch it.
But I love the colors and the art. You can tell that whoever directed it really knows because they took like the scary nun habits and cranked it up and made it even scarier, but yet the colors are so
Beautiful.
vivid and it's really well done, for what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Definitely.
Up to 69. What are your feelings on taxidermy?
That's a good question because I'm vegan. But what I've learned is that a lot of taxidermy is roadkill taxidermy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's beautiful. It's a good question. It's beautiful, but it's also like it kind of goes against my ethics about like using animals as art or entertainment,
Right.
But I think ultimately, if it's roadkill, then it's, the animal died already and it's fine, I don't have it just because I'm conflicted enough to not, but I work in a tattoo shop that like is filled with it. So it's like,
Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay.
not against it so much that I wouldn't, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
82. What would be on your ultimate sandwich?
Now you got me thinking about sandwiches. um, so, so I think like some kind of like marinated tofu with like tomatoes and maybe like some kind of grilled spinach. What kind of seasoning? There's probably some kind of like maybe like some kind of curried mayonnaise or something. I don't know. I'm really just making this up right now.
Hey, it's
I'm
your
like,
sandwich. Yeah.
I'm not a good cook, so I'm just like I just go and I order. I'm gonna shout out this coffee shop in Highland Park called Habit. They have like the best sandwiches. So I'm just like, give me whatever you guys have.
We always joke that you can tell how extra someone is by how they order their Subway sandwich because
Oh,
they'll be
yeah.
like
Oh
No,
wait,
no, that tomato.
yeah,
No, no, not that one.
totally,
And
totally.
you walk away thinking, oh my God, what must this person be like, outside of sandwiches,
Yeah. Yeah, actually I wanted to say it was Habitat. Habit is a different
Oh,
place.
habitat. Okay. Yeah.
Habitat. But yeah, I mean, Subway, it's like it's it's always just going to be bad. So it's like, just give me, whatever. It's
The bread's not real. I mean, yeah.
yeah. I went to a Subway in India, and that was interesting because they had like four different kinds of vegetarian patties.
Okay.
Like, because they don't eat cows there, but they do have, like, I guess you can get chicken or turkey or something. But so
Yeah.
they have all of the fast food places have some kind of like veggie burger or whatever. But the Subway was interesting because they had like four different kinds.
Yeah, but even as a vegan, aren't you like, what's in that? Aren't you kind of
Yeah,
concerned?
definitely. Yeah, I think that I mean, I didn't eat it anyways, but because they're like also really into, it's vegetarian, not vegan. So, and I'm in India. I just like, I can eat real food
So
here.
you're
Like I can eat the best Indian food I could ever want. Why would I eat
exactly. Yeah.
97. What television commercial do you remember most from when you were growing up?
God, the one that just popped into my head was the Pogo Ball.
Oh wow.
I
Yeah.
can kind of like sing. Oh, actually, yeah, I can't sing the whole thing, but I can sing the promotional spot for 227. So maybe I remember that better.
When my son was little, he was watching TV and he came running out to me in the kitchen and telling me about some product he saw he really wanted. I said, well, where can you get it? He says, at these fine stores. I'm like,
my kid, when she was little, I asked her to do like a performance in front of the I should preface by saying that we listen to a lot of podcasts on the way to school every morning. So then she wanted to do this performance. I was like, all right, get up on, in front of us and do it. And before she went into it, she did a ad for ZipRecruiter. So.
Okay. She's going places in HR. Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly.
so what's the story behind the tagline, Spooner's no fun, and what kind of made you
yeah,
embrace
this
it?
is the question that I've wanted to ask the most. Yeah.
There's a funny story about that. So my partner and I went to go see the Buzzcocks on their 40-year reunion. And, they played a great set, but they played their whole set and then it was over and they hadn't played like Orgasm Addict and like all the hits, right? And
Blasphemy.
And I'm just like, they're going to do an encore. Like this, we're sitting here, we're waiting for like the lights aren't on, the music hasn't happened. Like, oh, we're supposed to clap, like encore. Right. They did the encore. And I was just like, this is so fucked up. I'm like, why are we all participating in this like stupid ritual of the encore? I'm like, I'm just going off. I'm like, the Buzzcocks started as a reaction to this rock star bullshit. And now they're over here asking us to fucking clap for, like, I'm just going in.
Wow.
Like,
you were charged up. Yeah.
We're like leaving the place, walking down the street. Like my girlfriend got like a sandwich, and I'm still over here like complaining about the fucking encore. And she's just like, you are no fun. Like she was actually like, you need to start a comic, call it No Fun, because you are no fun. All you do is complain,
Oh god.
And I actually, the first comic that I had published, I did the encores in Razor Cake.
Okay.
Where I just complained about encores. So that's where Spooner's No Fun came from.
Gotcha. Our phrase for that was always, hey, Chuck Berry's got to play Johnny Be Good. That's what we always say. We're like, They got to play the hits,
Yeah, you
even if
got
it's
to
an
play it, but
encore.
like,
You
why
got
are
to
we
play it.
pretending like you're not going to play it?
It's a ritual. Yeah, it's like,
Like,
what if we don't play it?
okay, I mean, I have more respect for a band. Like, I feel like when I saw The Cure, like, they play 3 hours. They're old men. So at one point they're like, we're gonna leave, go piss, like smoke a cigarette, and we'll come back and finish up, And it's like, just like, cool,
Tell it
I'm
like it
okay with the
is.
intermission,
Yeah, that's
but like,
funny.
let's not pretend like you're not coming back. It's on your set list,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you bring that up. Like I remember last year I heard the Cult went and played the whole Southern Death Cult album, or the first album maybe, or it was one of those. And I remember I watched footage of it, and to me the crowd was like, it was more like it was for them than for the crowd, because clearly people don't know those songs.
Mm,
I mean, people want to hear Love Removal Machine and Firewoman and whatever else,
yeah.
And I just thought to myself, is this self-indulgent behavior? Is it just they want to play it because they're like, this is good music. You just don't
Mm.
appreciate it, Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate a band who will just play an album back to front to
Front to
back,
back. Yeah.
and then and then play like some hits afterwards. I mean, that's great. And I remember seeing what are they called? It's the band that sings Melt With You. The song,
Yeah. Psychedelic, not psychedelic first. Who does I'll
is it
Stop the World and Melt With You?
English,
English
Modern
beat,
English.
modern English.
modern English.
English beat,
Yes,
English beat,
not
modern
English, modern English.
Modern
So
English.
they
Okay.
played their first album, which was like pretty gothy.
Yeah.
And then they played it front to back. And then at the end, they were like, okay, now we're going to play the song that you came for. And literally still pays our bills. And then they just played that song, and it's just like,
Keep it real. Yeah.
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 Because they probably don't want to play that song,
Well, no, I mean, you're sick to death of it, I would think. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be hard. We asked John Paul from Clutch, like, is he ever get tired of space grass? And he was like, no, there's not none. I was like surprised, you know.
I mean, I'm not a musician, so I don't know, but I will tell you that most of the time when I screen Afropunk, I thank people for being there, and then I leave and I come back in an hour, like.
Well, you've seen it enough time. You've done your due diligence,
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, that's great.
So as a do-it-yourself artist, are there any things that you would tell like someone who's just starting out, like avoid these mistakes?
I mean, I don't know. I yes, but I don't think I can say generically. And what I can say generically is that you have to make mistakes in order to learn. It's like part of the process. So I would say more, don't beat yourself up for making the mistakes. Don't stop because you made mistakes, just learn from them and do that. Don't do them, or do them better next time. Like sometimes mistakes are good.
So is there any project that you thought about but have just never really tackled quite yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've got like personal stuff with my dad that I can't figure out how to do a project around. But yeah, it's I don't know how you make how you make something about somebody that like nobody wants to be around, so like, I don't know how you would I don't know. So yeah, there's always projects floating around. It's just whichever one takes hold,
Well, this was great. Every bit as great as I thought it would be, Mr. Spooner.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Every now and then we're like,
we got to get Spooner on. Yeah. And I think you are fun. I don't care what anybody says.
Falling on deaf ears.
Okay, Deaf Ears 1.
This is Pyres with Yun. Good things take time, but tragedy has a way of stopping the clock. When Pyres put out their debut album in 2013, they had no idea the tragic events that would force a hiatus. The lead singer losing his sister to a murder-suicide, his father's death the next year, and the pandemic striking, just as he was finally ready to begin writing again. 12 years later, against all odds, the sophomore album from this Canadian four-piece has finally arrived. The word yan translates from Chinese to mean to accumulate strength or to hold in emotions. The 7 tracks here are mostly in the 5 to 6 minute range, with one epic just shy of 13 minutes, serve as a release, an intense reckoning with emotional scars and trauma.
I love a band with interesting song titles that send me down research rabbit holes. Mono nervosa doesn't have a precise definition, but breaking down the Latin roots, it seems to describe someone with exactly one nerve left, one that someone else is standing on. The track begins with a low, rising, vibrating hum that soon trades turns with an electric guitar, crooning out a fluid, squelchy melody for over a minute before Alex Hera's driving drums pummel in. Mark Del Parte's guitar picks up the initial melody as Devin Lemaire's bass creates a sense of motion, gyrating back and forth. Andrew Wilson's vocals are a grating yowl. I wanted to die for over a decade, Mono Nervosa. As the track builds, the riffs grow more dynamic and distressed before Wilson and Del Parte smooth into harmonies, layered over plucked bass and doomy drums.
I had to Google Nova Creatus, which may be likely referencing the infamous Creatus Curse from Harry Potter. It translates to new torture. The torture here is Wilson confronting the blow of his sister's murder. The track features a fast drum wallops and racing riffs interspersed with harmonies that trade off and diminish for the verses. Wilson's vocals are harsh and dripping with vitriol. Midway through, the guitar's hard pan, a fiendish bass line creeps in, and the relentless drumming drives forward. By the track's end, the guitar notes lengthen and shimmer, with layered, clean chorus singing out over diminished drums. The vocals return to deranged, hoarse yells, while oscillating tremolo riffs shoot off into wandering noodles, all while the hammered drums relentlessly go on.
Let's play a clip. This is Nova Cruciatus. Okay. By contrast, slower tracks like the nearly 13-minute Depth Charge in a Dead Sea unfold patiently. A lone guitar plays runny, woeful notes as the drums sound off a slam or two before quieting again, building a bleak foundation for nearly 2 minutes. The original guitar melody weaves through the mix as the drums shift between a gallop and a plod, with Hera adding a subtle cymbal sting. Wilson's vocals emerge a soft baritone, angst-ridden but absent of rage. I must keep drifting forward. The slow, echoing, repetitive riffing over the rise and fall of light drum hits feels like a boat tethered to a dock, gently bobbing with the waves. The track gradually escalates as Wilson's vocals unravel into throaty outrage.
Later, chromatic, discordant guitar mirrors the off-kilter emotion before flowing into harmonies and, eventually, into tremolo-picked passages. It ends with one long, trembling note. I think my favorite track is appropriately named Granular Flow. Granular flow occurs when tiny particles move like a liquid, and this track bursts out of the gate in full gallop with tight drums and rapid-fire distorted riffs that settle lightly for the verses. Wilson's vocals are an insipid, dry yowl, and by the time Wilson stretches out the chorus, Granular Flow, the heavy burden, ceaseless and slow, granular flow. The weight is real. Gouge out your eyes. The track has reached full hypnotic intensity. Lemaire's low bass adds a layer of doom as the guitar riffs churn. There's a brief soaring guitar solo around midpoint, but one of the best moments comes when the drums roll and the guitar alternates between long sustained notes and choppy urgent bursts before shifting to dirty descending riffs and back again. Given the dark subject matter, It's no surprise that Yun is not the danceable, rock-infused doom that I've been drawn to lately. This is proggy sludge metal with a flair for atmosphere. I hope Wilson and his bandmates found some catharsis in creating this album, and that someone out there facing similar struggles finds solace in it. For the rest of us, this is music to drown in, letting the atmosphere wash away the weight of the world, like a dark, doomy take on a Calgon bath for the soul.
Okay, let's play a little of Granular Flow. Okay, Deaf Ears 2 is the new album from Glorious Wounds, self-titled. Rhode Island, home of Brown University, countless donut shops, and now Glorious Wounds, a searing new melodic hardcore four-piece with riffs for miles and a singer who sounds like she could just take your head off. Now, I'm picky about this genre. There's way too much sickly sweet Blink-182 wannabe nonsense out there, but Glorious Wounds, not even close. It's a spectacular debut. 7 songs blast by in 18 minutes, packed with deft tempo changes, dark, chugging guitars, and hard-charging metallic overtones. Vocalist Jill's coarse leonine roar is the perfect foil to John's ADHD-fueled riff explosions and frantic fretwork. In a short time, this band has patented a sort of creative rage that will resonate instantly with skinheads and longhairs alike.
My Reflection Looks Different kicks off with uber-heavy distorted bass and furious downstrokes before slamming the gas pedal. Jill spews venomous yet introspective poetry, while John layers wild, brain-rumbling static, finally uncorking a deft melodic guitar solo to close it out. Let's play a clip. This is My Reflection Looks Different.
Now it's mine, hollow and broken, all consumed with darkness. An empty shell in place of where my heart is. It's time you leave. Let the true colors shine. You piece of shit. Total waste of my time. Picking up words of wisdom you can barely speak. I wish that you could ask yourself which one of us.
A Headstone with Your Name opens up with a stout rhythm from bassist Paul, while the guitars weave snappy power chords and dark arpeggios, culminating in what might be the album's best riff, while Painting the Sky rages hard while cycling through hooky angular melodies straight out of the 90s post-hardcore playbook. Think Fugazi or Quicksand.
If you're looking for stadium choruses, boyish man lyrics, or auto-tuned vocals, this is not the album for you. This is artisan-level melodic hardcore laced with a dark metallic thread, and I can't seem to get enough of it. Fans of great guitar-heavy punk rock like Night Fever or White Lung should dig the hell out of this one. So let's close it out with a little bit of A Headstone with Your Name. Okay, Deaf Ears 3 is the new album from Ezra Cohen and the Big City Band. Another New Hampshire artist? What's going on this week? I've seen strip malls bigger than that state. And yet, here's another one I knew nothing about. DIY singer-songwriter Ezra Cohen's new album with the Big City Band, who's apparently just a bunch of friends who like to playing together. It's a near-perfect blend of alt-rock, power pop, and just a touch of twang. It's the kind of sound that takes me right back to my 91 Sentra, where Blue Mountain and Posies lived in the CD visor above the steering wheel. A simpler, happier time when my biggest worries were dodging responsibility, making it to happy hour, and praying that Whoopi Goldberg wouldn't ruin the next episode of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Produced by New Hampshire studio Svengali, Alex Salter. These 10 songs fly by in no time, with brash percussion, sweet jangling guitars, and warm, introspective vocals from Cohen. It's uber-engaging alt-pop from the very first ragged chords of the replacement-esque opener, Get a Fix, a track that boasts the $1 million chorus and all manner of wild guitar fills popping in and out of each channel. Let's play a clip. This is Get a Fix.
And you don't have to work that hard forever. And you don't have to look that far to get a fix. Yeah.
The ragged, clanging Running Out of Space might be the album's strongest cut, with guitarist Chris Kennedy weaving all kinds of rootsy, crisscrossing Neil Young isms. Cohen delivers one of the album's most striking lines: "When your life is like a chapter filled with constant violence, time to close the book, turn the pages back in silence." The Wolf offers haggard, biting guitar riffs that give way to sweet, jangly oscillations that provide plenty of space for Cohen to stretch out vocally with his sweet, slightly lovesick style. I've been running beside you, 'cause I'm here, but I'm not.
Engaging, melodic, full of hooks and heartbreak. There's not a weak moment on the album. For those of us who remember a time when gas was only $1.30 a gallon and inline skates were cool, at this particular moment, in fact, there's nobody better than Ezra. Sorry. This is Running Out of Space.
Turn the TV kettles roaring, and you're running out of space. That you can take life at your pace. That you
I remember the old days. We were real appliances.
Yeah, all bets were off when I found the air fryer cookbook. I just keep coming up with hits from that one.
Yeah. Because popping in the air fryer sounds so much better than preheat to 350.
Yeah.
That sounds like a day-long commitment.
This has been the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast. So sorry for being a little under the weather. Please forgive my voice and lots of sneezing. Special thanks to Mr. James Spooner for appearing on the show. We're so glad we finally had him here. Love his art, love his books, love his films. What's not to like? Actually, I'd like to get a tattoo. Snaggletooth theme, courtesy of Yang's Kemgren of the Firebombs. Deaf Ears theme by Tim Green of the Fucking Champs. Season 4 artwork courtesy of KC Angel. You can find him on Instagram at KC Angel Art. Deaf Ears band include Glorious Wounds, Pyres, and Ezra Cohen and the Big City Band. All content 2025, the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.
No, it's not an alien spaceship. It's a dehydrator. Dehydrate potatoes in just under 37 hours.
This is the Snaggletooth Rock and Roll Podcast.